Hi, I'm Scott Herndon, and if you've been paying attention to our Facebook channel, which is Abortion Human Rights Act Idaho, or if you pay attention to my own page or my YouTube channel, then you probably saw a very interesting interaction I had this week at the Idaho Capitol with State Representative Brent Crane. Now, I had made this appointment with Brent 3 weeks ago before the Idaho legislative session started. So before that meeting, we had set that up for a long time because the chairman of state affairs has the authority to grant a hearing for our bill that would, number one, treat abortion as murder, because why is abortion wrong? It's murder. Always treats it as murder, no exceptions, even if you've been raped or if the baby was conceived in incest, because the baby is the focus of the bill. The baby has a constitutional and God-given right to life, and it's the state's duty to protect that life, even if the mother is not going to protect that life herself, which she should. But if she doesn't, just like with any other criminal law, like I don't get full rights to do whatever I want. The state's job is to punish evildoers because guess what? It lowers the amount of evil going on. Then our bill also says that the Supreme Court erred when it issued 42 decisions over the last 48 years, and that the state of Idaho already has the lawful authority to defy the Supreme Court. Not only has the authority, but has the duty to defy the Supreme Court. So I'm down in Boise, and I'm talking to 13 representatives with my wife and daughter Esther. For the third year in a row, we've had this bill. And the previous 2 years, we had a different chairman of state affairs, and he denied the bill a hearing. And in the 2 previous years, we have 3 pro-life lobby groups. What is a pro-life lobby group? It's a group that has a bunch of money, and they hire lobbyists to go to the Capitol to convince your legislators to do something. And Right to Life Idaho, Idaho Chooses Life, and Family Policy Alliance are the 3 groups that talk about murder by abortion. In fact, Right to Life of Idaho and Idaho Chooses Life, that's all they're about. And for the 2 previous years to this, so as background, they have told the previous chairman never let the Abortion Human Rights Act see the light of day. Don't give it a hearing. Why would pro-life groups be the enemy of abolition? But that's the background. We had 13 great conversations with representatives at the Capitol, and then we get into Brent Crane's office, and he's the new chair of state affairs. And to give you a little background, he had come out of that the day before on Monday. He had seen me and said, "Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, Scott. We're on for tomorrow, right?" Yes. Then he came out of the House chambers at 11:20 in the morning, and he said the same thing. He said, "We're still on for 2, right?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Looking forward to it." And then we get to 2 o'clock, and you saw the video. And I did not go in there recording. Arlene didn't go in there recording. Within 3 minutes of the meeting, he calls the Idaho State Police, and 3 officers come to the office. And then he proceeds to act as Lord of the Manor for the next 25 minutes and dictate to us that we're not cooperating with the pro-life movement. And he's not going to hear our bill of abolition because we are not cooperating with the pro-life movement. This is the same pro-life movement that for the last 2 years has opposed even a hearing for our bill. And we have tried to work with them and talk to them, and that's all we're still trying to do. So why all of a sudden are we being treated and told that we're evil? Brent Crane said, "I'm seeing and hearing evil." And he said that we are not cooperating with the team, and that he said he was furious and he was livid, and he said we come in riding on a white horse and acting like we're God's chosen. This is what he said. Why is he so passionate? Why is he so angry? Because I'm not angry, even though the last 2 years pro-lifers have basically denied a bill that would end abortion, a hearing, in favor of doing what they've been doing for the last 48 years. Well, I'm going to tell you the answer. Why is he angry? It's because pro-life Brent is the most pro-life guy in the legislature. That's what he'll tell you. He's a pro-life Republican. This is not a rhino. Brent is a conservative Republican. Truly, on multiple issues, he and I agree. Pro-life is at odds with abolition. It's at odds. And pro-life has failed. See, abolition never even came on the scene as a legislative idea until I ran a ballot initiative in Idaho in 2016. And I didn't create it. I got the idea from someone else. I started thinking about it in 2015. And with these friends of mine, we started thinking about a legislative solution to murder in the state. In 2015, we had a conference in Coeur d'Alene where we talked about the very elements that are contained in the Abortion Human Rights Act, which is the Bill of Abolition. But remember, Roe v. Wade was 48 years ago. And before 2 years ago, in January of 2019, we filed our first bill of abolition in the Idaho legislature, and the committee chair denied it a hearing. And the next year we filed it again, and he denied it a hearing. And this year we filed it again, and Brent Crane has denied it a hearing. But in these 3 years, it's the first time in 48 years that anybody has ever proposed to end abortion in the state, regardless of the United States Supreme Court's opinion on the question. Why is the pro-life movement, why are the lobbyists, why is a legislator so angry with me? Because I'm coming in with the idea that we ought to abolish abortion. See, it all started back in 1973. There were no abolitionists back then. And the Supreme Court issued an opinion in Roe v. Wade and a companion opinion in Doe v. Bolton. And they said in their opinion, they said that the mother has a constitutional right. So the focus was on the mother and her right. In the 14th Amendment, she has the liberty to kill her preborn child, to hire an assassin to go against nature and insert instruments into her womb and cut up and dice up and slice up and dismember her preborn child and throw its body in the trash or sell its body parts. That was the Supreme Court opinion based on the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was passed after the Civil War, and it was about the southern states and the Congress demanding that the southern states extend full civil rights to the freed black slaves. That's what the 14th Amendment was actually about. So in 1973, if you had a correct view, and if you realized that the question is not about the mother, the question is about the baby, the preborn child conceived in the womb, made in the image of God. That preborn child has a constitutional right to life regardless of the mother's circumstances. Just like that mother has a right to not be raped regardless of her life circumstances by any man. In other words, it's about, we have to identify the victim and perpetrator. And in abortion, the victim is the baby. It's not the mother. This is a news alert for the pro-life movement. And this is why pro-life is at war with abolition. It's at war with abolition. And it brings in the armed guards, the state police, and it wants to throw abolition out of the Capitol. If it could, it would put me in prison. Why? Because they're not focused on what they should be focused on. They are focused on regulating murder by abortion. And they're focused on the mother. And they're telling her when, how, why, and where she can kill her child, as long as they get the approval of the United States Supreme Court. And Brent Crane talked about all his bills in the last 15 years. Well, there have been, in the last 10 years, 21 pro-life bills in the state of Idaho. And until our bill, some of those passed, And until our bill, none of those pro-life bills even considered treating abortion as murder, even considered the baby has a right to life, even considered that the federal court has played the tyrant. None of them have. And until we absorb that idea that the baby has a constitutional, God-given right to live, that the baby is made in the image of God, and that it's the state's duty to protect that life, even against the mother. Until we get that, we will always have child sacrifice legal in Idaho. See, in 1973, when Roe v. Wade was issued, there were no abolitionists over here in Idaho. There were Republicans, and there were Republicans who thought abortion was ugly, inconvenient, that sort of thing. And do you know what they first did in Idaho Code? They legalized abortion in Idaho Code. In Idaho, abortion's not legal because of a Supreme Court opinion. Abortion is legal because pro-life legislators put it into Idaho Code, and they have 2 whole chapters of Idaho Code that tell you when you may kill a child, how you may kill a child, which instruments you can use to butcher the child. Do you need to see an ultrasound or at least be offered one before you butcher your child? These are the things that the pro-life movement has done. We need pro-life legislators to become abolitionists. And until they do, they will shut down abolition, and they will call me their enemy, and they will call me evil. And they will call anybody else who espouses the ideas of abolition. You know what they told us last year? You're endangering our movement. How could I endanger their movement? If I ended legal abortion, would there even be a pro-life movement? And I know a lot of people have thought, well, I thought that was the goal. Haven't they wanted to end abortion? And this week, a lot of our legislators got an email, and it was from AUL. They're saying, listen to this subject line. AUL releases, quote, and this is their new report, unsafe. America's abortion industry endangers women. Brent Crane said, well, we can't hold mothers accountable for abortion. And that's what he's saying his sticking point is. We can't have mothers' accountability, ever. They should never be held accountable for murdering their children. Why shouldn't they? They're the person who's in the best position to protect the life of their child. They should be held accountable if they murder a child. But the whole point is, you know why America's abortion industry is unsafe? It's not because it endangers women. It's because 100% of the time in an abortion, it kills a child. That is the problem. And I need your help. I need you to help your legislators see the difference between pro-life and abolition. Abolition says that the baby... No, the abolitionists aren't saying that mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers and high schoolers and kindergartners don't count and don't matter. But on this subject, murder by abortion, the baby's the one being slaughtered. And so for all your bills of the last 10 years, even if you could make a case that a baby has been saved by one of these bills, 28 children are being murdered this week. Under color of law. Protected by Idaho Code. That's a problem. And that should not be. And so, we need your help to educate your... you just have to demand that your legislators abandon the pro-life movement. And if you're not there yet, you have to ask yourself, like, why there's a bill right now, H-17, and it basically... I'm just going to give you examples. It's your typical pro-life bill. It's one of the things we were opposing this week. It's got 4 bad things in it. By the way, they've pulled the bill for now, but I guarantee they're only going to make a minor change because the Hospital Association asked them to make one minor change. But here's the 4 bad elements. It says that the Supreme Court is supreme. That's in the first major section they're adding to code. It pretends to prohibit taxpayer funding for abortion, but it doesn't, because it has an exception, and it says that if federal law allows taxpayer funding, then we're going to comply with federal law. So it says that the federal government is supreme. That's a problem. Bet you that's not going to go away from the bill. Why? Because the Medicaid Act says you have to pay abortion providers for qualified Medicaid services, and the Ninth Circuit Court has already ruled on that. They issued an opinion, but see, the language is they ruled, so we must bow down and obey. That's what the pro-life movement says. No, they must be defied. That's number 2 problem with the bill. Federal law is supreme. Number 3 problem, it says you can get taxpayer funds to kill children in abortion if you're a hospital. I bet you that's still going to be in the bill when it gets redrafted. 4th problem with the bill, it says that we're not going to give Plan B emergency contraception at high schools or public universities unless the baby was conceived by rape. And then if they're conceived by rape, well then you can go ahead and use public taxpayer dollars to kill that child. Go ahead and put that child to death for the crimes of its father. But this is typical of the pro-life movement. This is the pro-life movement. It's what they've been doing. They specialize in it for the last 48 years. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the people are bad. I think they're deceived. Honestly. Or they haven't been awakened yet. And that is me being straight up with you. Because I wasn't awakened until 5 years ago. But I wasn't a legislator either. And they take an oath to uphold the Constitution. And so we need to ask them now. You know what's worse for them? Is now that abolition has been presented. So abolition would say that, you remember those 4 elements? Abortion's always murder. Never any exceptions. The state has the authority to outlaw murder, and they need to defy the federal judiciary tyrant. Remember those 4 elements? Well, unfortunately, now our legislators are going to become accountable to that. Before God. They won't even be able to claim I didn't know anymore. Everyone who hears it is going to be able to say, yeah, I did hear it. And they're going to have to choose sides, and maybe this is why Brent got mad, is because they have to choose sides. Am I going to hold on to what I had before? Or am I going to be humble enough to admit that I did not have all the answers? And I'm going to be humble enough to take a new direction. And I asked them to consider that. I'm going to draw you a picture. So there's my screen, and here's a wall. And this is a timeline. And this is 0 weeks of a baby, 40 weeks. Right over here is 24 weeks. At this point, we're most of the way through a pregnancy. And this wall is Supreme Court, SCOTUS. And they have said right here, before 24 weeks, states may not regulate. May not regulate. Abortion, meaning they cannot prohibit it at all before 24 weeks. And over here, after 24, states may regulate murder. You know what's sad about this? Nobody gets an abortion after 24 weeks anyway. They never did. They get them all over here. If you want to know why the pro-life movement has failed, it's because they're obeying this tyrant right here. And this tyrant continues to insist, as late as last June, in their 42nd opinion of the Supreme Court, including Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton, that a mother has a constitutional right to murder her child. And the state legislature, considering only the rights of the child, needs to break down this wall by defying this tyrant right here and outlawing abortion. And until they understand that, until they do, this tyrant shows no hint that they're going to change. None. 42 opinions over 50 years. 48 years. So, pro-life is at war with abolition. It's just the way it is. And pro-life does not consider the baby and doesn't consider that this beast right here is a tyrant. And we do. And talk to your legislators about this and get them to see the difference. It'll probably take years for some of them. That's where we do have patience. But there's no path forward for the pro-life movement. There is no path forward. As long as they obey this tyrant, babies will be murdered in your state, and they'll take your good-hearted pro-life dollars and they will spend it to oppose people like me who would have them oppose the tyrant. Thanks for watching. Sign up for a newsletter. abolishabortionid.com. I will email you every time bad bills are coming out that further reinforce that this tyrant has authority, that federal law has authority, and that babies may be killed by certain means. I will oppose all of those bills. And you should too. And you should hire legislators in the election cycle that are abolitionists and not pro-life. If someone says I'm pro-life and they know the difference between pro-life and abolition and they oppose our bill, you should run the other way from them and get someone else in that position. Thanks for watching.